Yes, welcome home. No words to speak. It's in between the words. And Edward is a reward for all of us. Not any award, but a reward. Watch out. Every disaster is going to be a disaster, but at ease. No more disease. If you just watch from our heart. Whatever He is going to share with us, it's in our heart, in our religiousness, in every being. Let's be with Edward. Thank you for being with us. Already many people, many viewers now, they heard your name and they are waiting. Who is this man who is going to share with us healing? So people, they call you some names like it's Karl, whatever, Fabergé. So it's Jewish or what's called Russian name.
It's actually a French name.
French name?
But it's a name of a very famous Russian jeweler who was a jeweler to the crown of Russia in 19th century, and he produced the unsurpassed masterpieces of objects of virtue. He produced over 40 eggs, Easter eggs for the Tsar of Russia, and every one of them had a special surprise inside the eggs. One had photographs, another one had a crown coach, and it's quite flattering that some of my colleagues call me the Karl Fabergé of dentistry. They probably refer to the quality of my work, I will let you know. And it's very flattering. Thank you for mentioning it.
So he was a great jeweler.
He was.
You know, unless you meet a jeweler, you don't know the difference between a jewel and a pebble. The pebble is good, but when the jewel comes, the pebble will leave. So we are with a jeweler like the Kohinoor story. So now it's time to speak about your parents and see what a beautiful parents that they gave such a beautiful jewel.
I was born in Russia, and my parents, both of them, were curators of the museums. Their specialty was Middle and Far Eastern antiquities. And since very early age I was exposed to the images of Eastern beauties. I saw, when I was 6 and 7 and 8, I saw beautiful lacquer from Persia. Lacquer boxes and pen boxes from Persia out of papier-mâché, 15th century, 16th century items of absolute beauty. And later on I was exposed to Japanese woodblock prints, and my mom even taught me how to identify originals from copies with my eyes closed by the texture of the paper that they were printed on. I was very lucky. I was exposed to very unique culture that usually was not available in Russia to most of my friends and colleagues. And I never thought that I will become anything less or more than a curator myself, because I like art and I was exposed to it so early in my life that I wanted to be an art curator and an expert in art. And I studied to be one. And my father was also a very skillful restorer of works of art. And when I was young, my first job was to sharpen pencils for him. When I was 6, he gave me the blade and explained what angle he would like his lead pencils to be, and at the time we didn't have electrical sharpeners. So I was the one who was sharpening the pencils for him. Later on, he let me be his helper in restoring works of art, and I was learning that skill. And finally, he allowed me to participate in restoration of works of art by Fabergé as well. The jewelry by Fabergé is quite fragile, and sometimes it was damaged, especially the enamels of Fabergé were damaged, and my dad was restoring those works of art, and later on he shared his methodologies with me. And when I became an adult, I was restoring works of art for a lot of private collectors in Russia, as well as museums. And one of them was a plastic surgeon, and he liked what I did for his collection of Fabergé. The restoration that I did for him was to his liking, and he said, "Edward, you have golden hands and you know what's beautiful. You will be a very good plastic surgeon. Please go to medical school. I will help you." And he guided me to medical school. And I entered medical school, and he did help me very much. When I was in the second year of my medical school, he allowed me to be his assistant at the operations, and I learned a lot of very useful and very important points from him during those operations. And later on, I became a good plastic surgeon myself. And I was working in Moscow as a plastic surgeon, and I couldn't stay away from art. So, a couple of times a week, I was also working in a museum, and my job at the time was to be a purchaser of works of art for Russian government from the citizens of Russia. Because at that time, by the laws of Russia, you could not offer your art to another Russian citizen prior to offering it to the government, to the museum for the purchase. So I was the one to whom the works of art were brought for purchase. And if it was good enough, I bought it for a museum, and it wasn't good enough, I gave the people the paper that allowed them to sell it in a private market. And that's how I was spending my time between creating maxillofacial plastic surgery at the Institute of Beauty, that it was called, in Moscow, and the basement of the museum where my purchasing of works of art was to take place. And later on, I was buying works of art in London for the museums at Sotheby's and Christie's of London. And in one of those trips, I escaped. I asked for political asylum in the United States, in embassy, in London Embassy of the United States, but I was told that I had to make my way to Rome, and through Rome eventually I ended up in the United States. And I brought all those papers with me that show that I was a maxillofacial plastic surgeon, and I had 2 degrees in the Soviet Union. I had an MD degree, a medical degree, and a dental degree, because to specialize